Everyone, thank you for joining us this evening. We are very delightful and pleasure to have all of you here, and we have a lot of participants from various background and various places from Peninsula Sabah and Sarawak. And while we're waiting in the meantime, while we're waiting for more participants to join in to enter for the webinar series, I would like to greet all of you and introduce in a very short manner of our program this evening, and also our panelists that will share their opinions and their sharing and discussion with us. So we're really glad that all of you spare the chances and time to join us this evening. So thank you again for participating. Thank you again for registering for the webinar. So we would like to welcome all of you to the session, to the webinar, especially our Serudaya, organized by Serudaya channel, co-organizer with Lex Auxilium Consultancy and Sinisab Production Sarawak. This webinar, the short form of it is the Contemporary Society Webinar Series, or known as CosWeb 2021. So today, discussions on that matter. So before that, let me introduce those that will involve, especially the panelists and me myself. I will be the moderator for the session. I am a lecturer myself, academicians, and also organizer, a co-organizer together with the companies and organizations that handle Serudaya channel. So my name is Tetuan Pendeta, or Reverend Charlly Simon, senior lecturer and academician, researcher, theologian, associate manager and director, Chartered Institute of Educational Assessor, United Kingdom. Currently, my research in the native customary law together and under the National University of Malaysia, activists, political and social activists, currently teaching in College Unicorp Cyberjaya. And upon looking into some of his profile, he is also National Director for Strategy Unit Pendidikan MAK Malaysia, Officer for Enlight Malaysia as well, and Wikimedia Malaysia. Later, he will introduce further his background, his diverse, but the thing that I really admire that he is really actively involved in the issue of social issues, social justice, and sentencing policy is one of the areas that I believe he really have a lot to talk about. So let us listen to him later. Our second panelist is Miss Pavitra Manian, is the lecturer and academician as well, legal advisor and activist, head of School of Investigation Enforcement, College Unicorp Cyberjaya. She also one of the English lecturer last time, and I think she still is now under Cambridge program. So we have both panelists with us today, actively and teaching in the institute belong to the Royal Police of Malaysia, PDRM. So this is a really unique opportunity to have people from the institution itself or related institution itself to present their viewpoints, to share and discuss with us on the matter of sentencing, whether we are simply want to punish them or should we give the people second chance. So let us examine the topic in detail from our panelists, from our expert. And later, both of them will introduce further themselves and share their passion and their sharing. Before we start, before I yield the floor to our panelists, I would like to lay down a few ground rules for all our participants tonight. Please keep your mic switched on until the Q&A session. But if you really have the urges, excitement, you just want people to get ready to answer your question, please post it in the chat box and we will do the compilation. And we will present it to our panelists later so that they will answer your question. So you can start to type in the chat box and we will compile it on your behalf. And we will have 1 hour session today. We will keep in the time. So please don't hesitate to start now, ask your question so that we can prepare our panelists to answer it and cover all the questions. Apart from that, we want all of you to enjoy the session. We want all of you to really benefit from it and take the knowledge and the extra sharing from our panelists tonight. So thank you again, and we really enjoy and we're really glad that all of you can make it. So without further ado, let us start our webinar. So we will start by giving the floor to our first panelist today, our Sir Jayraj P. Muresh, to start the presentation and sharing for this evening. Mr. Sir Jayraj, please, the time is yours.
Thank you very much to the Honorable Mr. Charlly Simon for actually inviting me for this wonderful session. My name is Jayraj, but people know me as MJ lah. Not Michael Jackson, I can't dance like him. Alright, so basically, yes, I wouldn't say call myself truly a full activist, because I still feel that there's something lacking in me, to really be part, to be really renowned, call yourself as a pure activist. However, I do my very best, whenever there are matters involving our youths in general, most focus on the youths, I always tend to voice out, I always tend to be vocal, and sometimes that can get me into trouble as well. There is something about activism that young people need to know lah. Sometimes certain things we say, some people of the higher ups wouldn't be very happy, but that is where you come in as an activist. When you want to fight for social justice, students' rights, those are something that you have to take into account. Yes, I have a bit of background in law as well, a few years already. I'm currently one of the criminal law lecturers in College Unicop. It's with Ms. Pavitra as well. I am a part-time engineering analyst. Yes, just waiting to get my master's in physics. I pray one day lah, very weird, totally different thing, but I try my very best. And yes, I do a bit of politics here and there. However, that is something that is different. My main focus has always been for the rights of youths, and I've always pushed to make sure that youths truly understand the most important aspects of it, which is the criminal law aspects. Because a lot of youths think that doing certain things, they can get away with it. They think that it's a small thing. For example, even scolding someone, or threatening someone, they think it's just something is relaxing. But little do they know that those things are actually very risky, because those things can actually fall under the penal code, and that can actually get you into trouble with the authority as well. That's why it be sentenced, okay? So that's why it comes towards our main topic of the day, which is sentencing, okay? As what Mr. Charlly has already told in earlier stages and stuff. So for me, when you tell me something called as sentencing, the first thing in my mind, because I'm a more pro-punishment-oriented person, I'm a bit of a punishment-oriented person. It's not that I don't believe people do not deserve second chance. However, in my mentality, second chance means something that is different. And I think by the end of today's discussion, I think you will realize why I've stated that punishment is actually more important, or sentencing is actually much more important than giving someone a second chance. Okay, so for me, in sentencing, there are four main theories Because sentencing is basically to give fair punishment. That's the logic behind it. The theory behind sentencing is to give fair punishment. And when you tell me about just punishment, or known as fair punishment, there are 4 main elements. However, from my side, I'll be discussing 2 things with you, 2 major elements, which I think is very relevant to my topic, which is retribution. Okay, I think, have you guys all heard before of the term like an eye for an eye makes the world go blind? That is something that I truly and strongly disagree. I know a lot of people are like, oh my god, MJ, why do you think like that? Yes, I truly disagree. To me, I believe in the principle, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth, a life for a life. You know, it's an Arabian proverb. Because I believe in which, like, if you do something right, you deserve the benefit of doing something right. When you do something wrong, then you have to pay for the consequences. Because it's not fair for other people to bear the consequences of your inactions or for your wrongdoings. It's totally unfair. It's not just, in my opinion. So that's why I believe in these principles of retribution. Because why retribution is very important, why sentencing, why people must be sent like to prison, why is it very, very important, why is it an important aspect of it, is because you must understand the fact, when a person sees someone doing a crime, just say raping someone, murdering someone, what will happen when the police do not take action, do not send them to be prison or send them to be sentenced by the courts, is that people in general, humans, will start to take actions in their own very hands. When they start to take actions in their own very hands, that's why you will see public justice. Have you guys watched Batman? I believe a lot of you guys watch Batman. You know, Batman always say, no, I'm the vengeance, I'm the Dark Knight, you know. That is not what we want to see in real life. Imagine everyone thinks they are Batman. The whole world is going to go chaotic, man. Serious, you know. Imagine everyone's like, okay, I'm going to come there, I'm going to take a batarang, you know, throw at the bad guys. Everyone wants to be a hero. But you imagine yourself, how dangerous would it be? For example, if this is your younger brother, he was accused of murdering or raping. And then the society decided, okay, he has raped and murdered, let's all take vengeance upon him. They beat him, kill him. And then suddenly they realize, oh my god, your brother didn't rape, it was another guy. By the time the damage is done, you already killed him because you assume that he did the particular killing. So we do not want common people, to actually punish people for wrong things. That's why we have a court system. The court system is where they sentence people to be punished. So when the people have been punished, for example, a man, he sees his daughter being raped, being murdered, when the courts actually punish the person accordingly, the man in his heart will feel better, knowing that, okay, justice has been served by the society. The society is, in the sense, the courts. The fair courts have weighed the evidence. The fair courts have actually analyzed the evidences as well. 2 sides have actually debated, which is the person that is sending you to jail and the person that is defending you from not entering into jail. They have argued their points. There is a fair trial, there's a fair process of justice. So when people tell that, oh, when you punish someone it's just for pure vengeance, it's not pure vengeance. It's basically giving society, showing them that yes, justice has been served by a proper due process of law. That's why, have you heard the statement of everyone is innocent until proven guilty? That has been a maxim or a principle in law, stating that anybody, regardless whether it's been charged for terrorism offences, murder offences, rape offences, robbery, theft, everyone deserves to be brought to courts and they need to argue their case. That is what we call as sorry, what was the word again? Innocent until proven guilty. So when you go to court, you are not a criminal yet. You are still a suspect. Only when the courts judges strike the hammer, that's when they will determine whether you are acquitted or you are a criminal. So that is how basically our system of retribution works. Retribution, when people say no, punishment, sentencing for punishment is very cruel because you are just making them suffer. No, it's not like that. Okay, you must understand the fact that when people are not punished for their crimes, when people are so-called given a second chance in life, there is not going to be unfair for people that have actually been following the law accordingly, people that have actually dedicated their lives to make lives of other people better. It's going to be unfair for people that do not want to cause harm to other people. Because I do understand that there are points out there stating that yes, people deserve a second chance, is in the sense that everyone, regardless of how small their crime, how big their crime, they need to be given a second chance. I'm not saying that everyone don't deserve a second chance. Correct me, okay? Like, for example, a renowned researcher, Mr. Shankar, has once stated that there has to be a recategorization of crimes. Okay? Yes, people deserve second chances. However, the second chances would be for different types of crimes. Okay? Like, for example, in the UK, we take an example in the UK. In the UK, for their drug crimes, they have level 1 drug crimes, level 2 drug crimes, level 3 drug crimes. So when you talk about level 1 drug crimes, they are crimes that is related to drugs, but it's at a smaller level, and those drugs are non-dangerous. Okay, those drugs are something that is more of a casual usage of drugs. So when you use that sort of drugs, when you are caught with those drugs, sometimes the police will just, okay, don't worry, the courts will realize, okay, don't worry, we are not going to send you to prison. However, you need to pay a fine, or you need to go for rehabilitation, maybe lah. Okay, but that is different from that in Malaysia. You know, in Malaysia we categorize all those drugs like ganja and all that. If you have a certain kilo of it, straight away death sentence. Okay, so for me, if you want to talk about giving second chances to people, the crimes have to be recategorized accordingly. We cannot just state, like for example, even murder. You know, when you talk about murder, there are defenses in our Malaysian law stating that, for example, if you murder someone, there are defenses which is insanity, which is automatism. These are defenses that can put you away from murder. But there could be maybe some other situations, you know, maybe crimes of passion and all that. So I think there are laws in various European countries for the crimes of passion. Why someone go and kill their cheating husband because they had an affair with another woman and all that. Those are crimes of passion. Yes, it's a crime, but maybe for murder there could be a better defenses, you know, because not many people just when they woke up in the morning they realize, hey, I want to go and murder someone. Not many people are like that, you know. Some people maybe did it because of anger, you know. But even though he did it because of anger, that doesn't mean that we should give him a second chance. That means we need to make sure that he serves his punishment accordingly. When he serves his punishment accordingly, then only we will be able to send him out to society. So that is what people need to understand. When a lot of people in general, they say that no lah, everyone is a criminal until they are caught by the police. That is a statement that's always been heard. That means everyone at one point of life, they have broken the laws. If only the police catch, then only they are considered as criminals. But this doesn't necessarily apply to every crimes. Okay, maybe for example, when you throw rubbish on the floor and all that, those are not crimes. Those are just offenses. Crimes are, for example, in the sense as like maybe you saw money here, you decide to take the money, put in your pocket, but maybe the money was only what, 2 ringgit. Takkan you want to go to prison for 2 years for it? Doesn't make sense. Maybe you should go for rehabilitation. Why you shouldn't take money and all that? But you still need to be punished. You still need to be punished, but that doesn't mean you get scot away freely for just taking 2 ringgit. 2 ringgit, 10 cents, the value is still the same. It's still money that doesn't belong to you. So regardless of what, there could be a level of sentencing. The level, you need to reorganize the crime. It's going to take a longer time for our parliament makers to actually draft the laws accordingly, because right now we are basing a lot of things on the case law. The penal code, which is the Malaysian Code of Criminal Law, they cover a lot of things. But I still think there has to be more improvements to be done to it, especially much more details, because certain areas, there are still gray areas. We are not really sure. For example, the crimes of rape, there are so many categories in the crimes of rape that anyone can just allege rape, and it's easy to straight away send people to jail. So we need to change certain aspects of it. Like for example, rape. When you want to give person a death sentence for rape, okay, maybe it needs to include attack. Like for me, if you ask me, I believe that rather than killing drug dealers, people who sell drugs, hanging them, rather than doing so, why don't you do that for the crime of rape? But that rape doesn't mean that all sort of rape you should hang them. Maybe you should put rape for the crime that involves beating the woman, crimes of attack, a certain level of attack that is involved towards the woman. That's why you hang these people for rape. Or terrorism offenses, you know, where you kill thousands of young children, thousands of innocent families and all that. Those are the crimes that deserve for the criminals to be hanged rather than rehabilitating them. Because if anyone tells me they want to rehabilitate them, I think it's a joke. Seriously, I'll tell you directly, I think it's a joke, because people who can argue about this rehabilitation, people who can argue that these people deserve second chances, maybe they have not experienced their own families going through that sort of things. That's why they can say these sort of things. But imagine if their own child, their own mom, their own dad has actually experienced this sort of thing. Do you think their mentality will say give them a second chance? No, the mentality will be different. I can assure you it will be different. Maybe they won't kill him, but he still believes that punishment needs to be served. And when you ask me, that's where retribution comes in, you know, that vengeance, it's not vengeance, but it's vengeance from terms of law. The second one, why you need to punish people, why you seriously need to sentence people, why these people need to get punishment, is for the concept of deterrence. Okay, for example, today I decided to, okay, now I'm in a coffee bean over here. So I see this guy selling me coffee. So I feel like, hey, my coffee is too slow, coffee is too cold. I decided to take a hot coffee, pour on his face. The fella's face burned, scarred. And then when the police catch me, I just say, because my coffee tastes very bad, that's why I pour the hot coffee on his face. So when the police see, and people can do certain things just at the snap of a finger, harm someone, destroy his facial feature, if I'm not sentenced accordingly, if I'm not given the adequate punishment, what's going to happen is that everyone will start doing the same. Everyone will start to see, if their coffee is not sweet, they just pour hot coffee on the barista's face. So the police needs to send me to court, provide evidences to the court to ensure that I get punished, maybe for 5 years for attempting to cause grievous harm. So when other people see, oh my God, MJ go into jail 5 years for pouring small cup of coffee on the people's face, that thing would put fear into people's heart. Why you put fear into your heart? Because you know in the fact, okay, I can't commit this crime. Why if I cannot commit this crime? Because the moment I commit this crime, I'll be in trouble. The moment I do this, I will go into prison. The moment I harm this person, that's the end of it. I have to go into prison. I have to suffer for a few years in my life. I wouldn't be happy anymore, you know. So that is basically what it means for me when you ask me why deterrence is important. For example, crimes that I think is very important that people deserve severe punishment, not normal punishment. That means severe punishment that can even hang them. For me, I believe in hanging people. I mean, capital punishment. That means hanging people to death. That is something that I strongly believe in. I believe for crimes that involves rape. I believe in crimes that involve murder, gang rape. Those kind of crimes are genocides. Those kind of crimes that is very violent, that is very harmful, grievous bodily harm. You beat the person until he nearly dies. Those are the crimes, to me, I strongly believe that you should be punished, you should be given capital punishment. But when you ask me, on the other hand, like, MJ, if you say it like that, what about drug cases, MJ? Like, you don't think they deserve a second chance? For me, I would say if you sell drugs, yes, you should be punished accordingly. However, you need to see like your family background and all. Because not many people, they are born in rich families, you know, or middle class families. A lot of people have been born in very, very poor families in which, statistically speaking, crimes happen during that time period because young people from a criminological perspective would want to feel important, would want to feel having a certain level of power, who want to have money, who want to have mates. Mates means like girlfriends or even boyfriends. So they tend to induce themselves into these crimes, especially young men. When young men do these sort of things, it's not because they want to show that, oh, I want to do crime because I like it. No, because they are forced to do this sort of crime. They have no choice. Their what they call this, their upbringing in life, their society that they are faced and all that has forced them to do these sort of things. And I understand, especially a lot of drug cases are involved. So for me, I think personally that maybe a second chance could be given to them. When you ask me about drug cases, don't hang them. To me, hanging for drug cases is a very trivial matter. There is ways for the police to actually resolve these matters accordingly. You do not need to kill drug dealers and all that just because you want to put a stop to drugs. It doesn't stop. It doesn't stop, ladies and gentlemen. The drug market is still out there. It doesn't stop. As long people are willing to buy and sell drugs, regardless whether you hang them or not, it doesn't stop. But that is different from crimes such as murder and rape. Because murder and rape, there's no benefit to them. Because drugs is a lot of money that can help them out, you know. Murder and rape, there's no, like, material benefit to them. Maybe sexual benefit for rape. But when you ask about, like, wow, if I rape or kill this person, maybe I get like $1 million. Generally speaking, unless you're a hitman, a paid assassin, generally speaking, that is not the case. People will tend to say, why would I want to murder him for? You know, there is the logical thoughts in your mind, unless when you are in anger, you tend to kill or stab him. That is why they have shown statistics from the American Justice Department that a lot of crimes such as murder and all that occurs because of small issues. For example, because of a scratch on the car. For example, anger because of something said, you know. You do not just go and plan like, okay, I want to murder this guy. There's no such thing. It just happens because of anger, because of spite. But that doesn't mean you should be given a second chance to run away. No. If you can murder someone for something so trivial, then you deserve the very least punishment there is out there to ensure that you can remember, because you take away the life of someone, you know. And you know, life, according to Thomas Aquinas, life is sacred, because under natural law, you know, they believe law comes from God, so every life is actually sacred. So I think for time being, I think those are my arguments that I think why people in a way doesn't deserve to be just freely rehabilitated for all crimes. Not many crimes deserve a second chance. That means once you did it, I'm sorry to say, you need to pay for the price of it. So I think that's it for now. I hope that I've actually be able to explain to the crowd in a bit cohesive or conducive manner. Thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Simon.
Thank you so much to our panelists, our first speaker today, Mr. Jayraj, or MJ, he say. Thank you, MJ, for that quite a thorough explanation. And yes, you know, it's a very unique background when he introduced himself, a law background and engineering background. So I'm really intrigued by those viewpoints, but we will examine it further later in the Q&A session. So right now, without wasting time, I would like to yield our floor right now for our second panelist, Ms. Pavitra, to share her opinion and her views on the topic. The time is yours, Ms.
Thank you so much, Charlly. Okay, well, good evening, everyone. My name is Pavitra, and I'm currently the program leader for Diploma in Policing and Investigation at College Unicorp. Other than lecturing, what I do is I'm a part-time public speaking trainer, and I also teach Cambridge English. And so for today's topic, why I got very much interested in talking about today's topic is because I love to read and know about crime, and I teach criminal law at College Unicorp, everything that is related to crime. So when our moderator here gave me the topic, it just, you know, triggered me, and I said like, okay, I need to talk something about it. So we had our first panelist, Sir MJ, and he strongly believes that every person who commits a crime needs to be punished. So before moving on to my point of view, I would like to give a basic overview of what we are talking about today, because we as panelists may know what we are talking about, but as audience, you may not have an idea on what this topic consists of. So firstly, when we talk about sentencing, so under Malaysian law, it states that any accused who pleads guilty and found guilty of a crime will be punished because they did not adhere to the law set by the country. So when, in other words, it means that when you commit a crime, you will be punished, okay, because you did not follow the law that has been set. So like Sir MJ said just now, he said that the minute you commit a crime, you are punished. So I feel, in my opinion, we are in a society where people have a similar mindset of what Sir MJ has explained in his points just now, where the minute you commit a crime, the first thing that we see, the first thing that comes to mind is punish that person. Okay, we don't think about anything else. The person committed a crime, the next minute punish the person. But when we think about it overall, what is the purpose of punishment? Did we ever think about that? Why are we punishing the person? We know that when it comes to crime, he must be punished, but have we ever sat and thought, why are we punishing that particular individual? what is the purpose? What is the benefit? What are we getting from it? So these are the things that I want you guys to actually think about when it comes to, maybe seeing a news next time stating that this person has done a particular crime. And for me, we have to think that when we punish a person, is it because we want them to not repeat the crime again, or are we sending the message to the society and stopping them from committing a similar crime? So what is the purpose here? So in my point of view, what I would like to focus on today is actually rehabilitation. But do not get me wrong, I am not saying that we shouldn't punish the criminal. We should focus the criminal. It solves the issue for only that particular moment. But what happens in the future? If we just take an immediate action, okay, you committed a crime, I punish you. But in the long run, what happens? They are still going to come out and commit the crime again. So in certain research that we see, it has been proven that a particular offender who goes into prison and getting his punishment, let's say 10 years or whatever punishment that he deserves for the crime that he has committed, when he comes out of prison, he commits the crime again. So if we look back into the points of Sir MJ, he said that if there is fear, the person will not commit the crime again. So what happens here then? What happens to people who are actually re-offending? We call them habitual offenders, which means they commit crimes again and again, even though after they are being punished. So where does this theory lead to? So for me, I feel that rather than looking at just the theoretical view, we should look into reality. Even though we are punishing people, they are re-offending. If we look into the facts of Sir NJ saying that we punish, they will stop re-offending. That means, I think for now, we wouldn't have anyone who is committing crime in Malaysia. Because if everyone is living in fear that if I commit a crime, I will be getting punishment, we will not have crimes happening in Malaysia. But I don't think that is what we see in reality. Every day we have people committing rapes. And recently there was the biggest drug case where, they were hiding drugs in the trolley wheels. So why did that happen? If people are actually living in fear that if I do certain things, I will be punished. So over here, we can clearly see that particular theory doesn't actually work. So what I would like to look at rehabilitation. Some of you might question me, okay, what is rehabilitation? Okay, when we come to rehabilitation, I am not saying that we are not supposed to punish the criminals, but I'm saying that while punishing the criminals, tell them or make them realize, create awareness on why what they did is wrong. And what are they supposed to do when they are once integrated back into the community, and why they shouldn't repeat the crime again. Okay, because if we just punish them, they come out back into the society, they'll be like, okay, I did something, I got 2 years of jail. So if I do the same thing again, happens when the person doesn't fear. I don't care, I don't mind dying. So you give me a death penalty, so what? So what is the person going to do? The person is going to commit the crime. That is not our focus here. Our focus here is we want to reduce crime, and in long run, we want to stop people from committing crime. So what I'm talking about here is when you rehabilitate, don't just, even when it comes to rehabilitation, when we give intervention programs, we shouldn't just, throw some particular intervention program. The rehabilitation program that we are doing must somewhat benefit on our long-term aim over here. For an example, sexual offenders. There is a very famous criminologist, her name is Dr. Yashina Ayu. So in a particular seminar, she actually said, we have about, up till date, we have about every year 1,000 sexual offenders, 1,000 sexual offenders. And so far, there are 8,000 sexual offenders who are being released from the prison who underwent this particular rehabilitation program. That means while they are in jail, they went through this rehabilitation program. And she strongly said none of those 8,000 sexual offenders have committed the offense again. So this is a proof that rehabilitation actually works, because our society always thinks they are going to read it. If we give them the appropriate intervention program. So if it's a sexual offender, we have to tell them why sexual offending is wrong, why that particular thing is not appropriate. So when they are released from the prison, when they actually join the community again, they will know how to be part of the community. Because sometimes these offenders, when you punish them, when we put a record on them, we blacklist them. So when they come out into the society, they are seen as a different person. They are not seen as part of the community. That is why they tend to re-offend. They feel that, people look at me differently, so why should I be part of them? I will remain or retain myself as a criminal and I will re-offend. I don't have fear of anything. So what if I get punished? So the reason of rehabilitation here is not to say that we give them a leeway. It's not a leeway. We are actually teaching them why you shouldn't commit the crime. Because when we punish, we don't tell them why you shouldn't do it. We just tell them that you did a crime, I'm punishing you. For an example, you give them rotan, whipping. Yes, of course, it's painful. But what happens after the scar is gone? What happens after the pain is gone? The person is going to re-offend. But if you give them the awareness, you tell them that why this is wrong. Because we know that maybe the offenders out there, they don't have someone to tell them these things. It could be the environment that they have been brought up, and maybe their teachers, they could be backbenchers at school. So they were always put into this particular group, saying that the useless group. Okay, I call it the useless group. We always see them, they are backbenchers. Even teachers will not focus on them. They come into class, they will see at the first, the front benches of students only. So what happens to the backbenchers? So they will feel that, we are the leftovers. People don't care about this. So what we do, we go into crimes just to show that they are also powerful in the community. So what happens to these kind of offenders? When they go into prison, when we should take a step forward. So that is what I mean here. The prison system, the legal system, or I would say the criminal justice system, should take a step forward to tell offenders why what you're doing is wrong. Because I don't see that being done in any of the life process that we are going through, or any of the legal process. Because the first thing that comes into mind is that you do a crime, you get punishment for it. For an example, we take into a very simple context, like our parents. Our parents say that, okay, don't come back home late. But if we go back late, the first thing our mom does is maybe slap us. But then she tells us why you coming back home late is wrong. She can tell us that, if you stay out late at night, it's not safe for you. So next time we will realize, what she's saying is actually true. So there is a higher chance of us trying another way. We wouldn't do that because we already realize the fact here is realization. So even though you are a criminal, you're still human beings. So they need the realization of why what you're doing is wrong. So apart from rehabilitation, I actually came across this particular idea or a system that is being used at United States, where they call it 3 strikes. Okay, 3 strikes here means every time a criminal re-offends, their punishment will become harsher. Okay, for an example, the first time you commit a crime, you're getting 2 years of imprisonment. But the second time you commit the same particular crime or a different crime, you re-offend, your punishment gets higher. So why do they implement this? It's because they want to show them the more you re-offend, the higher punishment you will get. Okay, obviously, to a certain extent it works. But what I felt, in my opinion, is that what if we integrate intervention program into this 3 strike system? So when they offend for the first time, you give them rehab together with it. So you tell them, give them awareness. So when they re-offend, maybe we give them a more intense rehabilitation or counseling. Because when we look at offenders, right, not everyone understands the law. if we look at criminals, the person who goes and murder, the person who goes and rape, will they know that, oh, this section says that if I murder, I will get 5 years of imprisonment? I don't think so that happens, because offenders out there, most of them, I would say 98% of them, are not knowledgeable regarding the laws that we have in Malaysia. So what happens if the offender is actually mentally incapable? For an example, there are someone who, they are suffering depression, so they committed the crime because of depression, or they committed crime because they are actually mentally not stable. So if we punish them, they come out into the society again. They will do that again because they don't know what is law. They don't know why what they're doing is wrong. So if we just punish and punish and punish without looking at the point or the core of the problem, this will just continue, God knows, until when. So what I'm saying here is punish the criminals, but at the same time give them rehabilitation, give them the awareness, tell them why what they're doing is wrong. So at least the time they come out into the community, they will be part of the society. They will not, see them as apart from the society. So I think rehabilitation is not a joke, okay, because mental health, we always talk about mental health awareness. So rehabilitation is not a joke, because when we look at offenders, like I said, they are still human beings. So we need to also take into consideration of their mental health. You punish them and punish them and punish them, it affects their mental health as well. And what happens if the particular person is convicted wrongly, wrong conviction? So you convict someone wrongly and then you punish them, it will affect their mental health, because they did not even commit the crime, but they're getting punished. And their name will be tarnished in the society. So I feel that rehabilitation would be a great way that needs to be incorporated into our legal system to make things better, because punishment or rehabilitation that we're giving should fit the crime. So we should look into each crime separately, not as a whole, because different crimes raise different. So I think that is my opinion for today, and I think that's all I have to say. Thank you very much. Back to you, Charlly.
Thank you so much for our second panelist, Ms. Pavitra. We can see a very far and a very different path of discussions and also viewpoint here from first panelist and second panelist. Let me try to summarize it before I address or give a few questions to further the discussion. I can see that the first panelist really taking a positivism approach to the concept of sentencing. You commit a wrongdoing, you commit a crime, you deserve a punishment, and it will stop them in theory and in practice. So that is the first viewpoint by the first panelist. While for our second panelist, it seems to be that it's not enough to punish them. We have to tell them, make them come into realization, and actually further examine the situation, why they end up there, so that we can take effective action to stop further crime. So it's very hard game here. It seems to be this both point is really, in fact, a current approach by all criminal justice system. You have one group on the other side, the other group on the other side. So do we able to reconcile it end of the webinar? Definitely it's not easy as that, but let us see and try first. So I have a question for both our panelists. If no matter what is their viewpoint just now, what is their take and what is their consideration on the issue of the effectiveness of the justice system itself that imposed the sentencing? Now, we know that, come on, it's open secret. Human make mistake, and same thing, criminal justice system can make mistake. Professor David Omerod in 2018 very clear, create a term called unlawful sentencing. In a legal world, we call it miscarriage of justice. So if we going to punish people, no matter whether we're going to give them second chance or whether it's a retribution or we want them to stop, then what is the opinion of our panelists? If the sentencing derived from miscarriage of justice or unlawful sentencing, what do you think about that? Let us hear from our first panelist first. Mr. MJ, can you take the floor?
Sorry, wait, once again, I think it's a bit lag. Let me off this thing first. Okay. Hi there. Okay. So when you talk to me about the miscarriage of justice, I think as what Mr. Charlly has stated in the earlier statement, I'm actually indeed a positivist. That means I see things based on data and action. You know, I see things on actual experiences, how things knowledge has derived and all that. Okay. So when you're coming back to data, all right, the first things when you talk about the miscarriage of justice, I do agree with Mr. Charlly, there are miscarriages of justices that occur in Malaysia as well. Yes, that is true. However, usually those miscarriage of justices will always be revised at the higher level courts. That's why we have the Court of Appeal, we have the federal courts. So usually the miscarriage of justices usually occur at the lower courts, maybe at the high courts or even the sessions courts usually will occur in that particular area. But when you go towards the federal court, when you go towards the Court of Appeal, when you go towards the federal courts, there is where cases like murder and all that you will always bring up further. Okay, and today's technological advancement, when you talk about today's technological advancement, maybe cases like, for example, DNA analysis and all that, there were cases in which in 1970s, the man was convicted, for example, for murder. Okay, the man was convicted for murder, and then after 20 years, they realized that he was not guilty because of the advancement of DNA analysis, that they were able to determine that his DNA on the woman's body, that was not his exactly. So when you ask me whether miscarriage of justices may occur in today's state of technology, in today's advancement of society, I would say the miscarriages of justices will start to fall nowadays because of the advancement of technology. So it works in a way, the more advanced technology is, the more lower it should be the miscarriage of justice. If you ask me from the data point of view, data perspective, and that has been proven by the efficiency of our policing force, in which they have one of the higher techs of today's technology. You know, they are trained in Scotland Yard and all that. So their IT advancement, their DNA analysis, their forensic sciences is really at a top notch. So when you ask me whether the police are actually efficient in doing the job, I would say yes. When it's brought towards the chemical labs, when it's brought towards this genetics and all, geneticists and all that, we will be able to determine a proper course of action. And you need to understand the fact that when you are charged with a criminal action, that doesn't mean straight away that, 51% of evidence there is, you are straight away guilty. No, the evidence that has to be accumulated up to a reasonable doubt, you know. When you talk about, beyond reasonable doubt, that means it has to be more than 67 to 70% certainty of evidence to show that the person is guilty. Okay, for example, in layman's term, today you have 10 apples. Okay, just say today you have 10 apples. In order for you to be convicted of crimes in Malaysia, there has to be 7 apples there which is spoiled. You need to show that 7 apples has actually spoiled, 7 to 8 apples. But when you talk about civil cases, you just need to show, 5 apples were spoiled, 5 or 6, 5 or even 5.5 was spoiled. But when you talk about criminal justice, whether someone wants to be guilty for a criminal action, you need to show that the 7 to 8 apples were actually destroyed, which if you are translating it to today's logic, it means you need to show that 70 to 80% of the time that fella is surely guilty. And it works in process. If the lower court has messed up, that's why you go to the higher courts, you go to another higher court, you can appeal. That's why the appeal process is always there. And when you go to the federal court, you can appeal for the Agong to actually pardon you, which in a lot of cases, it's a bit difficult for drug cases, but there were instances that there are pardons. However, usually, even though they go to the highest court, when they go to the highest court, it is quite conclusive that the people out there are those who are actually guilty. Okay, unless if it's political crimes, there is a different ball game. We are not talking more of political, we are talking more of the general crimes like murder, rape and all that. So at a certain level it's certain. But when you tell me, yes, like what I do agree in one point of Mr. Charlly stating that sometimes humans can make error. So that is why for me, I actually hope that in a way we have the jury system to be involved as well. In which in Malaysia, if you do not want to entrust everything to the jury system, maybe the jury system and the judge can come to a 50 weightage. Weightage audition is maybe 50-50. If the jury say is yes, maybe it's 55%. The judge say is yes, no is maybe 45%. There has to be a certain level of weightage system to determine who is more influential to come up with a decision. Maybe we need to start but then comes to the fact of education of the citizens. Maybe our public is not really ready yet for a jury system. Maybe if we just get everyone who are experts, maybe those experts, they do not know what it feels like to be at the ground level of society. That comes another issue as well. So we really believe that our learned judges, and we really know for a fact that our learned judges are people that are very well versed with the law, and they are very well versed with society itself. Because as you know, the judges are seeing cases on a day-to-day basis. So from there, they are able to determine, they are able to see society as a whole. So we can come to a conclusive fact that their reasoning and their judgment are indeed valid. Their judgment, their reasoning are indeed proper due to the fact of our technological advancement in this 21st century. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you for the opinion again, MJ. Now let us hear from Ms. Pavitra on the matter as well.
Okay, thank you, Charlly, for that great question. So we'll be talking about miscarriages of justice. What I personally have in mind is that, of course, I do agree with Sir MJ here. The reason why we have a hierarchy of courts in Malaysia is because not every decision made by judges is perfect. You know, it's not the right decision because judges are still humans, and humans make errors, like how Mr. Charlly said just now. So when it comes to miscarriages of justice, the reason why we have hierarchy of courts in Malaysia is because this sort of miscarriages can still happen. As much as we have the technological advancements, those technological apps, it's still run by humans. You know, it's not like it's run by robots, like it's not self-functioning. So mistakes still can happen. You know, because those technological advancements is still supervised or handled by humans. So we as human beings have the tendency of, you know, making mistakes, human errors. For an example, like Sir MJ said about DNA profiling and, you know, fingerprints and, you know, evidence for a case is very important. So if we mess up the evidence, judgment is going to be affected. Because any decision that is made in court is based on the evidence that is given. And like what Sir MJ said, it has to be proven beyond the reasonable doubt. So what if the evidence submitted to court is a wrong evidence? So that means, in the end, the decision that is going to be given is going to be a wrong decision. So that is how miscarriages happen. So what, in my opinion, what I feel is that for things to, you know, for an example, if we look into experts, we call them as experts, but how sure are we that they are actually the expert in that particular subject matter? You know, when we look into expert opinions, we can't just base on their opinion in itself, because calling them an expert, we need to still look into the idea that they are still humans as well. So they are there is a tendency of them making a mistake. A human error is always possible. We can't, in my opinion, there will not be a day where there won't be human errors at all, 100% human error, because in some way or another, there will be a human error. And we in Malaysia, we usually use precedents to actually give judgments in our case. Precedents in the sense that we look into previously judged cases from overseas, especially United Kingdom. So what happens when there is a case that we do not have a precedent? So it depends entirely on our judge to make the decision. So what if at that particular time, a person gives a wrongful evidence? So what if in future this particular case is used as a precedent for that judgment? So we as human beings, we always make errors. So I feel that we need more technological advancement. Whatever technological advancements we have now, it's not adequate yet. So we always have to move further, move forward, because human error is still possible. And in a way, for now, the fact that we have a hierarchy of courts, we still can appeal. But what if the person involved in that particular case is not aware that it is a wrong judgment given to them? So what happens then? So I think that is my opinion on this particular question. Back to you, Charlly.
It's really amazing to see really a true side of a point view of a discussion here. But surprisingly as well to me that there is a gravity, relevancy, and also reasonable on those both viewpoints. I think it really up to the participant to really come into conclusion later. But I have a little bit of surprise and a little bit of, we call it a real life case, a sharing. There's a question from, I would say, a former offender. I shall not disclose his profile due to confidence and everything. The question is like this, that he want me to ask our panelists. Yes, he admit that he make a mistake. Yes, he did commit the crime. He's not denying it at all. The question is right now is, when we say about second chance, is his life is ruined because of a single crime that been committed. So there is no more second chance, in the sense like everything just got destroyed because of that one crime and he got punished for it. And the question that arises from there as well, it's all depend to that punishment, the gravity of it. And some punishment is lethal. It can really cost the offender life itself. So how do we reconcile that? Sentencing and maybe the rights or the livelihood of the offender. Yes, it's not that we are not denying the victims and the law and the justice to be served, but at the same time, what the panelists think for the offender themselves. What do you feel about that? The punishment sometimes also cost them their life and their future. So let me start with Ms. Pavi for this one. Ms. Pavitra?
Okay, I'm not sure, if it's, I mean, maybe because I'm a female, I support more, or I look into humanity, rather than just punishing. So what I feel here is that offenders are still humans. Okay, I'm not saying that, because people may argue saying that, you may not have been a victim before, that is why you do not understand. That is not true. What I'm saying here is that people who are committing offense, not necessarily they chose to commit that particular offense. It's because of the particular circumstance, they have no other choice, and they were forced. Sometimes it could be forced. For an example, let me just give a very brief example. Let's say a particular individual just lost his job. He just lost his job during this pandemic. Okay, we look into the current issue during this pandemic. And he tried his level best to actually find for another job or do something else to feed his family. Let's say his family or wife and 3 kids. Okay, he needs to feed his family. So he tried his level best and he did not get a job. So what he decided to do was to steal some food from a grocery store. Okay, he did not intend to steal money, but he wanted to steal some food because he couldn't see any other choice that he could possibly do to feed his family. Okay, his family really needs food. So what happens, let's say he's been convicted and he's sent to prison. Now, did we actually address the issue there? Did we actually look into the situation of why he committed the particular crime? And when he comes out of prison, the first thing, his family is not fed. We send him to prison, his family, the problem with his family is not solved. Second thing, when he comes out of prison, there is definitely a bad record on his name. And it's not going to improve his life either. He is going to it's going to be a very hard time for him to find a job. So did we actually make his situation better? The answer is no, a big no. So for me, I feel that, last time during the Dark Ages, people, in those days, the kings, they used to give punishments such as, they cut off your hands, they beheaded people, they drowned people, because last time, people used to be inhuman, they looked as punishment as torture. It was not punishment to teach you a lesson, but it was punishment as torture. They tortured people because they want people to live in fear. We as humans, we need to be free in what we are doing, but at the same time, we know what is right and what is wrong. That is why we have education. That's what is right, what is wrong. If you want people to live in fear at all times, then for me, I feel that is not living life to the fullest. Because people will always be in the state of fear, thinking that if I do this, even in doing this current issue, as we educated people, students, if I will I be 1,000 saman or get 1,000 saman? Because we are in fear, but I still see people walking without mask. So what is the point here? So for me, I feel that, believes in humanity, punishment should teach the person not to repeat the crime, but not torture. We are not here we are not gods. We are not someone who can decide to torture another human being. When it comes to human being, we are all the same. Just because he has committed a crime or he's an offender, we shouldn't see the person differently. Maybe that person needs help. That is why I said rehabilitation, counseling is very important when it comes to this kind of situations. We need to see when people come out of prison, they should be able to reintegrate back into the society. Life should get better, not worse. So that is my point of view. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Ms. Pavi, for that opinion. Now let us hear from our first panelist, Mr. MJ. MJ, give us your take on the matter.
Okay, hi there. Thank you very much, Ms. Pavi, for those wonderful points. And actually, yes, I think in a way, Ms. Pavi does state a lot of logical facts as well, that we should be more humane and all that. And I do agree with her in the part, like, we shouldn't be cutting off people's hands and all that for small crimes and all that. We have passed those age, we have passed those times, those zaman kegelapan, all those times, we have passed that. Okay, in regards to my earlier opinion, okay, it's not that I do not agree with people given second chances, but what I'm really trying to put on the table over here is that second chances is only deserved for based on the gravity of the crime. I think Charlly has said a very good word. It depends on the gravity of the crime. That is why I've really pushed my point given by Mr. Shankar, one of a researcher, in regards to recategorize the crimes for sentencing purposes. You need to state the level inside the law itself. What crime is at what level? What crime is at what level? What crime is at what level? For example, like what Pavitra said, that people actually steal for their family who is actually suffering and all that. Those should not be given a fine or be sent to prison, because who's going to take care of their family and children and all that? So in that level of crime, the courts will need to take into account various factors, and with that factors that's already taken into account, the courts may be sending for a rehabilitation. In what Ms. Pavi's defense, a rehabilitation program may be done through online weekend, stating that why theft is wrong, because technically speaking, rehabilitation is also a sort of punishment. So that level is good. But when you tell me, okay, that is maybe for the particular friend of yours who was an ex-offender, for me, maybe I felt like maybe the justice system was a bit strict with him. That's why I really urge that there should be a recategorization of a crime. But maybe if just say your friend, just say, I'm not telling this, just say a friend of mine, he committed rape or murder. He robbed with weapons, gang rape or something like that. Of course, I would tell people, hell no with him given a second chance. That is something that's totally out of the picture. There is something that's totally out of expectation. How can we give people like those a second chance? If murder is done maybe through anger or what, maybe we can consider it. That's why there are factors involved. That is why the gravity of the scenario is involved, But when you commit that kind of crimes due to your own feelings, that you want that, you feel like you do not want to go through the process, you want to get it. For example, you see a beautiful girl, you want to rape her because of your own satisfaction, your own lust and all that. If you are going to give people like those second chances, what's going to happen to our society? I'm telling you straight away, what's going to happen to our society? Can young women go out the streets being safe? Okay, like what I think a very good researcher, I think from Ms. Pavi's side, Ms. Gashina has stated that sexual offenders, they have actually, they did not re-offend the second time that they come out from prison and all that. But for me, maybe I would say maybe there were rapists that were actually involved as well. Who knows? There could have been rapists and all that. But for me, I stated that if they were to be rehabilitated, they should be getting their sebatan, maybe 30 times at least, before they be rehabilitated. They should be in prison for 30 years. Or like how Korea and all that they are implementing as well, chemical castration. In that case, when you chemically castrate them, they do not need to be rehabilitated already, because they can't do anything already. You understand? You understand the logic. If you are chemically castrated, need to sometimes if that sort of scenario that I would need to be hanged for something that I did not do. But in my own opinion, I felt like, okay, maybe I can save the lives of others out there. I will just accept it, I'll fight until the end, but at the end of the day, I won't, I will just accept it, knowing that, okay, at least this thing has happened to protect the rest of society. I will go for it. So that is how our society, we need to hardwire ourselves, knowing that sometimes certain crimes are pertinent, are very, very important to protect not only your loved ones, for your future generations as well, okay? To protect society from being harmed and all that. Because when you let society start to just go wild without these strict laws and all that, that's where you start to see people in tribes, starting to go out of control, starting to take laws in their own hands, starting to do, like, for example, genocides, rapes, mass rapes and all that. The crimes cannot be controlled really, and that is why we need those crimes to stop society from taking things into their own hands. We need a strong enforcement over there to control the people, to not ensure they go out in line, go out in check. we put them in check. You know, it sounds like a lot of people like say, oh my God, MJ sounds like a dictator and all that. But I'm telling the actual reality of society out there, because I've been in society at the very lowest tier to societies at middle and the highest tier, but I've known how it works. And for me, I believe, yes, we can fix it. For example, to a friend that has actually been punished and all that, if the crime was something that is very low, I really think that the courts and all that, they should really reconsider. Justice system should actually change to recategorize the crime, so to make people's life, like your friend, even better, you know, so that when he go find jobs and all that, there's no criminal record. Maybe for him, they will just have a rehabilitation record. There's no criminal record stating that that would affect his opportunities in job and all that. That shouldn't be the case, because that will create more crimes for other people that's affected in the future. But rather, what should be done right now is a recategorization of crime, something that I strongly push forward for. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, Mr. MJ, for that opinion and also that sharing. I'm really apologize for the participant and also our panelists. It seems to be we're dragging the time. So without further ado, let allow our panelists that I want our panelists, Mr. MJ and also Ms. Pavitra, to have their reconciliation. How do we reconcile our topic today, and how do you think should we come into conclusion? Is there any suggestion? Is there any closure to this issue, which I really don't see it's easy. It's a hot potato topic, we call it in Malaysia. We can see both sides is they have a very strong argument on that matter, and split opinion definitely happen in our public, in our participant itself. So let us have let us hear your final conclusion and your final closure to reconcile this issue today. So let us start with Sam J and his conclusion, then we go for Ms. Pavitra about that. Mr. MJ?
I believe in the laws of thermodynamics, which states that anything from a state of order will always fall into a state of disorder, and anything from a state of disorder will come to an effect to a state of order. So life is a continuous process of balancing things out, in which in this context, with my argument and Ms. Pavitra's argument, I believe that our argument should be balanced out. So if you ask me my conclusion, hearing the very learned Ms. Pavitra's points, there are certain points I do like in her one. For example, in regards to the rehabilitation policies and all that. So maybe I hope that maybe the government, if we can lobby towards the government or the criminal justice systems, the lawmakers in parliament, maybe there should be, once the crime is already recategorized, we start putting Ms. Pavitra's rehabilitation aspects for the crimes such as theft, such as, for example, vandalism. Those level of crimes are maybe murder by accident, maybe due to hot temper. They had the case of Ahluwalia last time, due to the loss of self-control and all that. Those level of crimes that doesn't send you to prison for a long time, but maybe a rehabilitation process, to always do things to make yourself better and all that. Those level of crimes, I believe, yes, we need to incorporate Ms. Pavitra's crime into the reorganized structures of what crimes are, But when you tell me the higher gravity of crime, this one may be the lower gravity, now this one is the higher gravities. The higher gravity of crimes that's where I believe my point of sending them to prison, death penalties, should be enforced, should be scrutinized. The technological advancement of the police, there should be, for example, a special committee to start overseeing this sort of evidence, this sort of technological procedures in the police, the forensic sciences. There should be a special select committee to actually take a look and to see whether their technology, their standards, their scientific methods are up to date to the global or world accepted standards. So in order, when we do this sort, there should be also a select committee to determine the judges' efficiencies, the judges' pro-efficiencies in actually handling out or dealing with judgment, to come out with an informed or learned decision as well. With these sort of checks in place, then I would strongly believe that justice can be swift, and just as well. That means people who were sent to death, people who were sent to long-term imprisonment, people who were sent for sabatan, which is caning. That is where a fair thing was actually achieved. Thank you very much.
Ms. Pavitra, what is your opinion and your final closure to reconcile our issue of discussion today?
Okay, as a conclusion, what I would like to say is definitely I strongly believe in rehabilitation because I feel that each individual should be seen the same, whether even though they are considered to be offenders. But at the same time, I like the idea of Sir MJ where he said we should reorganize the crimes, the level of crime, because even though when we are giving the rehabilitation, I do not want the society or individuals out there to have the wrong impression of thinking that, okay, if I commit a crime, I go into prison, I will get rehabilitation. That shouldn't be a factor where where people will misinterpret it and take it as a factor to commit crimes out there. So for an example, when we talk about, I want punishment and rehabilitation to support each other. Because together, I think we can achieve better. Rather than solely focusing on punishment or just solely focusing on rehabilitation, I strongly believe we should incorporate both into the legal system so that it will complement each other and we can achieve better. So even though we have the reorganization of crime, the rehabilitative perspective should be included in every level. That is what I believe in, because we shouldn't separate it. Like MJ said, we have the higher level of crime and lower level of crime. But crime is a crime. When a person already intended to commit a crime and has actually committed the crime, they should be seen the same. Yes, we have a reorganization of crime, but the rehabilitative perspective is needed for every individual who commits a crime. But it is based on the particular crime that they have committed, because obviously a person who is a drug addict, there needs to be a very conducive rehabilitation program that will help that particular individual. So when it comes to sexual offending, the rehabilitation program should be a different type of rehabilitation program that will help sexual offenders. So it needs to be conducive in the sense that it helps that particular individual or offenders according to the crime that they have committed. We shouldn't say that only offenders who commit theft should be given rehabilitation. Rehabilitation should be there for every offender who committed a crime in every level of crime. So that is what I believe. And obviously, in conclusion, by incorporating punishment and rehabilitation into one system, I think it will be a more effective way of reducing crime, and it will be something that we can achieve in our legal system and something that our legal system should look into in the long term. Thank you very much, Charlly.
That is the take and the final closure from our panelists for this session. And to conclude the session today, I would like to share a few idioms, or a few concepts, especially in terms of criminal justice system and sentencing. There's a reason Lady Justice been blindfolded, but the problem is I did mention once upon a time in the big lecture hall. In fact, in my own written research paper, sometimes should Lady Justice have a little bit of peek through that blindfold? It's something for us to consider. Should Lady Justice have a little bit of teaser behind that blindfold in order to ensure that really justice been done and justice been served? It's not easy for our panelists to answer a hot button issue today. They are really amazing, and it's undeniable they are really expert in their field and area. But I think at the end is the participants themselves have to really ponder upon the issue and really to do further understanding and thinking about the matter. Of course, like our panelists said, it can be our own family, our friends, or anyone that in our society, community, and nation. So this issue is really pertaining our own life. It might happen to us, it might happen to our loved one, or it happened to someone that we don't even know, but it's part of our community and society life. So I hope all of us will take a very good lesson from today's webinar and the session. So again, thanks to our expert, thanks to our panelists that joining us today. We're really grateful, and we really appreciate their moment and time to share and to have the discussion through our webinar. Sentencing, is it just to punish, or should there be a second chance? For our participant, before we close our session today, don't forget to follow us in Facebook. Lex Auxilium Consultancy, it's a legal firm in Sarawak that dedicate themselves on helping out a social affair. We collaborate a lot with other institutions, especially to create this kind of webinar and empower youth to join as well, to share their opinion and knowledge. So we invite a lot of experts, international and national. This is our second series, so if you want to join more on this kind of webinar, follow us so that you can update us. Our type is, we have our participant here. The names of the Facebook is Lex Auxilium Consultancy. So like us in the Facebook, follow us, be friend with our firm and our consultations agency. We provide a lot of training via webinar at the moment due to COVID, but we hope things will be changed. With that, we like to appreciate again our panelists that joining us this evening, College Unicorp that also our partners that allowed the Academician to join us today, and like Malaysia, Wikimedia, and also AMK that really are presented by Mr. MJ with us. At the same time, we would like to thank and also appreciate the support from our head companies, Sinisa Production Sarawak, Lex Auxilium Consultancy, and our academic institution, Chartered Institute of Educational Assessor United Kingdom, and all the various parties that have helping us out to ensure that this webinar successfully been streamed and also been worked. Don't worry, if you really want to re-listen to this webinar, after thorough editing, we will upload it in the official channel in YouTube, Serudaya channel. So subscribe as well to our channel. A lot of topic there, discussion of law and society also been presented in the channel. So hope it will help more and benefit to our public, to our society. Thanks again. It's a Friday, TGIF. We hope that everyone enjoy their Friday, their weekend. In the meantime, please continue to stay safe. Take care of yourself during this pandemic. Abide by the SOP. Nobody able to afford 10K just like that in one night. So don't make yourself fall for that thing. Abide by the law, regulation, and SOPs. Take care of yourself, take care of your loved one, and take care your day. Have a nice day, everyone. Thank you for joining us for Contemporary Society Webinar CosWeb 2021. That's all for tonight. Good day and goodbye.